Welcome. In front of me is a Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, as you can see right over here. And today I will go over unboxing along with an overview of this phone. Now, straight off the bat, for the most premium device, the box here seems already to be a little bit scratched up, which was also the case for the S21 Plus for some reason. Now, this is most certainly not the fault of Samsung, but more of the distributor that is selling it. But anyway, the box doesn't really define the phone inside, so let's just get a look what's in here. Some paperwork, on the other side some eject tool, just a typical garbage here. We don't really care about this, so straight to the side. Obviously we have a phone. Now I did already set it up, so we don't have to. So that's gonna speed up the process a little bit. And also, apart from the phone, and here we got something else here. So I believe there's a cable, just as every other S20 lineup had it, or S21 I mean. And now this is a Type-C to Type-C. As you can see, both ends are Type-C. So if you haven't purchased a Samsung device, or at least the Galaxy I believe, and like past 2 generations, then this cable means to you basically nothing and might as well not come in the box, because only since like I believe 2 generations they started adding a Type-C chargers. So Type-C to Type-C might be a little bit difficult for you to use if you haven't purchased any device in like last year or so. For instance, I do have all of the chargers that I do have are just Type-A's to USB-C. So basically I have the one end is Type-C, and then the other one is just a typical USB plug that we all used to for decades now. So if you don't have Type-C charger, you're kind of bummed out, and you probably will have to use an older one. Now, anyway, let's get straight to the device itself. So right off the bat, you can see this massive display right here. This is the biggest version that they have to offer, also the most spec'd out one. And it is a 6.8-inch display. It's basically approaching a tablet size almost. And now the phone itself is maybe not the actual like the biggest one. It does have a little bit of a curved edge and really, and I mean really minimal bezels. Now let me also show you how the bezels actually look like by changing the wallpaper to something that might be a little bit better to show it off. So white one, it's only for the lock screen for some reason. There we go. Let's go with this one. So let's set it for both. And there we go. So you can now see clearly the size of the display. So like I said, 6.8 inches. Now this also model here has a 1440 by 3200 resolution. So this is the highest resolution out of all 3 S21 lineup. So like I said, this is the most premium one. Also runs at 120 Hz. Now before in the S20 lineups, you did have the choice to go either 1440p or 120, but not both. This time around, basically every device apart from this one is running at 1080p 120, with the Ultra being the only difference here, having a higher resolution and also higher frame rate for that resolution. Now if I go into the display, let's go in here, and motion and smoothness, you can see that it is set to adaptive, even though I believe it should be, there we go, it is set to 1440p. So this is the one big difference between like the older, the S20 series, and then comparing it to this one. So moving on to another part of the display, obviously you can see it does still come with that tiny little hole punched camera. It would be really nice if Samsung would move out of that one and also move to a faster charging here. Considering these are supposed to be flagships, they do lack a little bit of progression. Honestly, if you're looking at the display right here, it barely feels like much has changed between like 3 generations now, or maybe 2 at least. S20 looked really similar, almost identical. Maybe just the size of it is a little bit different, but other than that, not much has changed here. Now, apart from that 120 Hz resolution, obviously the phone runs on a dynamic AMOLED display, or maybe I should just shorten it to just an AMOLED display, because dynamic is just their way of calling it 120, so higher refresh rate. It means literally nothing. It's just an AMOLED display with a higher refresh rate, so no need to call it dynamic or anything like that. Also, obviously, because it's an AMOLED display, it has all the HDR 10 plus certifications with a peak brightness of 1500, so really bright display here. I believe right now it might not be maxed out. Yeah, it's not even maxed out yet, as you can see. There is still a little bit more to go, but I believe right now, even on the camera, it might be a little bit too bright for the camera as it is set right now. So, apart from that, 89.8% screen to body ratio. Looks a little bit like it's a little bit higher, but then it does still have visible bezels, as you can see all around. Comes with a 515 pixels per inch, obviously because of that higher resolution. And lastly, about the display, comes with Gorilla Glass Victus. So there's no Gorilla Glass 5 or anything, it's Victus, and it's supposedly twice as resistant to scratches as the previous generation. So take that as you may. I haven't really tested it, nor do I plan to, but it's supposedly supposed to be better. Now moving on to the, I would say probably star of the show, if we just peel this off, drop it somewhere. So you here get to see this massive camera array. Now this thing is actually quite substantial. This is not the smallest camera house that I have ever seen, but what it houses in here are a couple, I would say, really respectable sensors. So starting off, it has the main shooter as a 108 megapixel wide sensor. Now, it's not the first time we've seen 108 megapixels, so I'm not really getting too much excited about that, but I believe this might be one of the first time it is on Samsung, on a flagship like this. So let's put it this way, 108 megapixels on a Samsung probably will mean that it's a really good camera, because they do tend to have a really good software for their cameras. And I already did test the two lower specs, and the photos out of there were coming out stellar. So I expect the same thing here, plus more. Now next lens is a 10 megapixel periscope. So this is the one that has like this kind of mirror effect, if I can actually catch it in a good light. So this thing, it kind of looks like it's embedded below the phone itself, like it's going through it deeper, but it's just a mirror that is reflecting it somewhere like here, I believe, or maybe here. Not exactly sure where the actual lens is going, but it's basically at an angle. So this is done so I get those really far away shots. Now, because I am sitting literally in a box recording this, I won't be able to show you off like the, what is it, I believe 30 times zoom that this phone comes with, which is one of the selling features of it. So sorry for that, but I will be able to show you a couple capture photos by me that I will do right on the camera, so you can basically see just a typical experience that I guess you will get when trying to capture something that you would see and think, ooh, that's neat, let me just snap a photo of it. So that's kind of what you're gonna get here. Now there's two additional lenses which I haven't even touched upon. So there's another 10 megapixel telephoto lens, and also 12 megapixel ultra wide, which I believe the ultra wide also doubles as a macro if I remember correctly, but we'll test it. And obviously with those cameras you can shoot at 8K, 24 frames, 4K, 30 and 60, 1080p, I can shoot at 3060, also 120, which is not slow motion, plus 240 of slow motion. And if you drop it even lower to 720p, you can shoot at basically time-stopping 960 frames. So let's just flip it over and unlock it. Open up the camera right here. Location, no thanks. So it looks like we already got all the modes right here listed. So we get ultra wide, the wide, zoom, and I believe this will be the macro. So let's get my blend right here. I'm gonna start with the macro, assuming this is the, nope, this is the 10 times zoom, so that was completely wrong. I'm actually surprised that it can get the focus on it. So this is right now, like I said, 10 times zoom. Now you can also see my hand is shaking a little bit, but the phone does a fair bit of stabilization. Let's see if I can get it any closer. 30. Okay, I think I might be pushing it a little bit. Let's try it anyway. Can I push it out till it actually catches focus? Oh, there we go. We got it. But I don't have any way of actually pressing the button because of the angle that my hand is at, so I just move out of that one. So this is 3 times zoom. Hello, can you focus? Please? Oh, there you go. I don't know if you just seen that, but there was like a weird, yep, when it switches between lenses. So here, I'm gonna do that once more. So you can just keep looking at the screen itself. Did you see the snap where it changes the lens? It's kind of weird. Now I really want to find the macro because apparently it is really good on here. Food portrait, no pro. There we go. So I guess I just snap it into the ultra wide and that works just good enough. I'm trying to see if I can actually get it closer maybe. Oh yeah, I can. Okay. So these photos right here, like I said, are just kind of for fun, just to show it off. But right off the bat, you can see this is the ultra wide that did the macro shot, and this is whoa, this is actually the best macro I have at the moment seen. So you can really get to see it. It almost looks unreal. This is actually way higher resolution than I expected it to be. Yeah, moving on, this was another macro. Again, you can clearly see literally like every speck of detail on here, which is really weird. Moving on to the next photo, this was, I believe, just a normal shot, just a wide sensor, no zoom, no nothing. Now obviously if you compare that to the macro, the quality here at zooming in kind of degrades as expected. Then here was 3 times zoom. Again, looks okay. Looks a little bit better than the wide if you zoom in on it. Obviously on all those, the camera has a lot of detail. From what I've read or heard, I believe when it captures photos at 108 megapixels, it downscales them to 28, I believe, or something like that, just to save on space. So otherwise, if you capture a 108 megapixel photo, it will basically take a lot of space on the storage of the device for, well, maybe no particular reason. Right now the resolution of these photos, they have, well, resolution that is way above what you might need, and still this is downscaled anyway with still a lot, and I mean lots of detail in it. Now this was the, I believe that, what was it, 10 times zoom. So yeah, I mean, looks kind of fun. Not much more here to show, honestly. Let's see if there's anything else. Nope, that's it. So obviously I won't be able to show you the actual like best of the best what this can offer. This is just kind of like a for funsy, not much more. And also I won't be showing up the front sensor because it does have a glass stuck to it, along with still having the protective plastic that it comes with. So there's basically two layers of protection on this phone. Not really to protect it, it's for different reasons, but because of that, the front camera might look a little bit worse than it should. And also things like, for instance, a fingerprint sensor with those two layers won't actually work. So if I try to set up a fingerprint sensor right now, it literally will tell me to cover more of the sensor, because apparently my finger isn't covering enough of it, and that is just the fact that the glass is stopping it from being able to add my finger. So those are the two parts that I won't be able to show you, but the fingerprint sensor here is blazing fast, and the front-facing camera that you can see right over here, if I flip it over, you can see it obviously. But like I said, I have no idea how much it's degrading the quality of it, so I'm not really considering this into the camera photos. But the front-facing camera is a 40 megapixel wide sensor. Again, it can shoot at 4K 30 and 60, and obviously 1080p, everything between that. So moving out of it to actual pure specifications of this phone, it does come with two different versions of processors. So the one that I have right here, because I'm from Europe, this is the lousy Exynos 2100, but if you're in US, you get the Snapdragon 888. So 888, which I believe might be a little bit better, overall better. Now, in terms of pure benchmarks, when it comes down to comparison, I did a little bit of research on that, and the difference between Exynos and Snapdragon is Exynos is better by a really small percentage in just CPU performance. So any kind of tasks that require opening up something quickly and switching through apps and stuff like that, the Exynos will be better by literally a slither of a second, while the Snapdragon will be basically better at everything else. So if it comes down to gaming, Snapdragon better. If it comes down to mixed tasks, so CPU and GPU, so just for like gaming and loading stuff, obviously Snapdragon again. Exynos only wins in straight up CPU, so intensive processes that will require, for instance, rendering photos or 8K footage. So that might be favorable in terms of Exynos, in terms of recording videos and how the phone will need to process them. But other than that, the Snapdragon, I believe, is better. Now, if you combine all those from what I've seen, if you basically score them up and just try to compare them, Snapdragon will have an advantage anyway, and this is where I do have a problem right here. When you're trying to sell a super premium flagship device like this at the price that it comes at, and then you sell the same phone with slightly better processor in US for the same price, I feel like I'm a beta tester, and I don't really like that. I don't want to buy a product that feels like Samsung just testing out their new shiny processor that is built in-house. I don't care to be your beta tester. If you want to test it, do it internally. I'm not going to pay you for a phone that you decided to slap your shitty processor in there and try to, I don't know, justify the same price. Either you drop your processor in there and drop the price with it because it is inferior, no matter how you look at it, or you just don't put it at all and give everybody the same one. So I do have a real problem with their way of dealing with this. Now, the same problem was last gen with the S20s, just that the Exynos back then was even worse. This one, it's comparable, I would say. Still not as comparable as the Snapdragon, but it is getting there. And the next generation, if what we've seen in terms of leaks and information that Samsung is working with AMD on their Exynos to include AMD graphics in there, then yeah, the Exynos will outperform Snapdragon. But that is not yet, and that won't be on this device. So again, this is a beta product in this case. Now, moving on further to actual like storages and stuff like that. There's a couple different versions, so I will go over first the RAM and then storages. So we have 12 and 16 gigs of RAM. Now this one I believe is the 12 one. And then we also have the 128 to 156 gigabyte storage along with 512. Now when it comes down to 512, it will only come with 16 gigabytes of RAM, while the two smaller storages will come with the smaller RAM size. Now all of these storages do have ability to be expanded via SD card, which is, for the Samsung at least this version, this is the only S21 that has the capability to be expanded further using an SD card, while the S21 Plus and just the standard one have no expandable storage. And lastly, comes to the battery, which this phone is fairly chunky. It does have also weight to it, and it's not the lightest one. It does come with basically a power bank in here of 5000 milliamp hours, and the charging here though is a little bit puny at 25 watts. So again, big battery, but charging hasn't really gone anywhere since like 5 years ago. Since their Samsung devices started blowing up, they decided to stick to 25 and just play it safe, which is a little bit annoying for a device that costs over $1,000. I'm paying for something like that $1,000, which rocks flagship specifications. If you look at for something like Xiaomi Mi 11 that has come out, yeah, that device charges at what, like 120 watts or something like that. Costs less and basically as comparable to this. It's just the difference is it's not Samsung, it's Xiaomi. That's literally the only difference here. Now, apart from the lousy 25 watt wired charging, you do also have the ability to charge it wirelessly. Now, let me get the charger right here. This charger probably won't do it justice anyway, but it does charge at 15 watts wirelessly. So like I said, this won't do justice. This I believe charges at like 10 max maybe. So yeah, but yeah, 15 watts, and also you have the option of wireless reverse charging. Meaning that you can charge things like your wireless earbuds. So all you need to do is go into the battery, turn it on, and then flip it over, slap your headphones on the back, and your phone will charge your headphones then. But yeah, that being said, there's not much more about this device. If I would actually have to place it, what the purpose of it is strictly for photos, I would say. I mean, plus the fact that it's a phone, but the design of it, as you can see with the cameras, it is strictly designed for succeeding at a photo taking rather than, for instance, gaming, because it doesn't come with a Snapdragon. So with that being said, if you plan to capture a lot of footage, 4K, 8K, stuff like that, photos, then yeah, this is probably one of the best phones you can get at the moment. I don't think there's anything better than that. But in terms of, for instance, if you're looking for a phone strictly for gaming, and you're, as an example, living in the Europe like I am, then this phone is probably not for you, honestly. Just wait for another device that will come with a Snapdragon 888, like for instance the Asus ROG phone, I believe 5, should drop soon, and that will basically have probably 144 Hz. The Snapdragon and everything that you'd want, specifically also designed for gaming. While it will suffer in the camera department though. Other than that, the phone is fine. I believe it might be a little bit overpriced for what you get here. And personally, at least this is for just my personal opinion here, I don't really capture a lot of videos, so the phone might not be catering to me as much. But if I would have to pick, I would probably go for the lowest version of it, so the S21. It is way smaller device, which is something that I would want, and also comes with a little bit less cameras, and also a little bit worse cameras, because it does have like 12 megapixels I think, and 40 something, I don't exactly remember. I can quickly check it. I did make a video about it. So okay, the biggest sensor there is 64 of a telephoto, but still the photos there are coming out super sharp, really good, and can't really complain about it. And it does cost about $300 less or even more. So at that price difference, I wouldn't really justify buying this just to have a higher resolution of 1440p, which personally I don't really see any difference between those devices. But both of them have, or all of them do have 120 Hz, which is something that I would be looking for. So this device seems to me a little bit overpriced. It doesn't bring to me anything to the table that I will most certainly use to the fullest potential, and seems like I would be just kind of throwing away money at this point. But that being said, if you're, for instance, are the type to capture a lot of videos and stuff like that, then probably this phone will be really good for you. It's not good for me though. And the choice at the end of the day, it is for you to decide if this phone suits you and will meet your expectations, whatever you want to achieve with it. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.